Hello and welcome back to this Friday's episode of Sports Corner. I'm Cole Young, and to start, there's one headline that rocked the entire sports world this week. For some, it may come as good news. For others, myself included, not so much. The MLB's biggest name, two-way superstar Shohei Ohtani announced Saturday afternoon via Instagram that he is signing with a new team, making the 30-mile move up the 5 freeway to play for the Dodgers. The terms are for a record 10 years and $700 million. That is the biggest contract in North American sports history by far. Ohtani's contract will run through the year 2034. However, Ohtani is deferring more than 97% of his earnings. The deferred money, totaling $680 million, will be paid to Ohtani between 2034 and 2043, meaning he requested to only make $2 million per year for the next 10 seasons to make the Dodgers' payroll and tax burdens easier to manage. Apparently, the deferrals were Ohtani's idea with the intent of helping the Dodgers sign other players. While his contract will just be $2 million per year, Ohtani is believed to make upward of $45 million annually through endorsements, as he is clearly an international superstar. Suffice to say, he won't be struggling in the financial department. In case you're wondering who on earth would pay that much money for just one player, Ohtani's stats prove that he is possibly the greatest baseball player in history. Last season, he totaled 44 home runs and 95 RBIs as a hitter, while posting a 10-5 record with a 3.14 ERA and 167 strikeouts as a pitcher. The Dodgers are now most definitely clear-cut favorites to win the World Series next season. Personally, I am most looking forward to the Angels and Dodgers' first matchup. Speaking of LA teams and their successes, the Los Angeles Lakers have officially won the first ever NBA in-season tournament. On Saturday night, the Lakers rolled past the Pacers, winning 123-109 to win the inaugural NBA Cup. I'm sure no one will be surprised to hear that LeBron James was named MVP of the tournament. In the championship game, James and Anthony Davis put on an absolute clinic. Davis finished with 41 points, 20 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 blocks, while James added 24 points, 11 rebounds, and 4 assists. Those two players' rebounding totals matched every player on the Pacers combined, as the entire Indiana roster finished with just 31 rebounds. Every single player and coach on the Lakers roster received $500,000 as a reward for their victory, and the Pacers roster received $200,000 each. While that might not seem like a lot of money to these athletes, there are players on both rosters that just barely hit the $1 million mark, so to them, that could be life-changing money. Sticking with Los Angeles sports and the James family, LeBron's son and USC freshman Bronny James made his collegiate basketball debut this past Sunday. James came off the bench and finished with 4 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and 1 chase-down block that looked strangely familiar. Long Beach State, however, spoiled James' return to the court with an 84-79 upset over USC in overtime. While USC might not have gotten the win and James might not have put up the numbers you would expect, this is an incredible feat and emotional moment, as this was his first game back on the court since suffering cardiac arrest at USC practice on July 24th. Bronny James was hospitalized for 3 days after the cardiac arrest and underwent a procedure to treat a congenital heart defect. He was cleared by doctors to return to basketball on November 30th and went through 2 consecutive full contact practices for the first time this season before playing on Sunday. A lot went down in the NFL this week as we saw several upsets and a few big-name injuries. To start, it was announced on Tuesday that Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert will miss the remainder of the season after suffering a fractured right finger in his throwing hand on Sunday's loss to the Broncos. He had season-ending surgery earlier this week. Herbert and the Chargers have had a disappointing season, heading into last night's game with just a 5-8 record, all but eliminating them from the playoff race. Another AFC West team that faced a shock this week was the Chiefs. Kansas City was defeated by the Buffalo Bills 20-17 on Sunday, and the game had a bit of a wild finish as the Chiefs scored with little time left on a hook and ladder play by Travis Kelce and Kadarius Toney. The play was called back, however, due to Toney lining up offsides. Mahomes, coach Andy Reid, and the rest of the Chiefs had some choice words to say about the call, but nonetheless, the Chiefs have now lost 4 of their last 6 games. They are just 1 game ahead of the Denver Broncos for the number 1 spot in the AFC West and will look to bounce back against the Patriots this week. The other shocking loss came on Monday night when the Titans upset the number 1 team in the NFL, the Miami Dolphins. Miami looked like they had another victory wrapped up as they were up 14 points with less than 3 minutes remaining in the game. For reference, teams that have been down that much with that little time left have lost 767 times in a row. That streak ended Monday night as the Titans managed to pull off the comeback with a shocking 28-27 win. It seems like it's going to be a weekly tradition for the next few weeks to update you on the current NFL playoff picture, So let's take a look. The 49ers were the first team this season to clinch a playoff berth and are the new #1 seed in the NFC after the Eagles fell short to the Cowboys this week. The Cowboys took the #2 spot while the Eagles dropped to 5, and the Lions remained at #3 even after a shocking loss to the Chicago Bears. The Buccaneers took a massive leap and are now sitting at the #4 seed coming into this week, and the Vikings and Packers are still holding on to those last 2 wildcard spots for now. The Rams, Seahawks, the Falcons, and Saints are all just on the cusp of working their way into those wildcard spots. In the AFC, the Ravens retook the throne as they are now sitting as the #1 seed after the Dolphins and Chiefs losses. The Jaguars still remain the #4 spot, while the Browns, Steelers, and Colts round out the wildcards. The Texans, Broncos, Bengals, and Bills are just barely on the outside looking in, and all 4 teams currently have a winning record. For both conferences, this week is vitally important. Several teams are just about to clinch the playoffs, while some are doing everything in their power to wiggle their way into one final spot. Last week, I went 2-2 with my picks, bringing me to 31-17 on the season. The Packers and Lions games hurt me last week, but to be fair, no one could have seen those coming. Anyway, for this week, I'm going with the angry Chiefs to get a bounce-back win over the Patriots, the Eagles to also redeem themselves on Monday night and pick up a win over the Seahawks, the 49ers to cruise past the Cardinals, and I don't know if I've ever picked the Falcons, but the Falcons to earn a win over the last-place Carolina Panthers. We only have 4 more weeks, including this week of regular season football, so enjoy it while it lasts. The college bowl games start this weekend, which means a Heisman Trophy winner has been named. LSU's quarterback Jaden Daniels won the sport's most prestigious individual award Saturday night. Daniels transferred to LSU back in 2022, and in this season, he accounted for 4,946 yards of total offense, 3,812 passing, 1,100 rushing, and 50 total touchdowns, leading the Tigers to a 9-3 record and appearance in the ReliaQuest Bowl against Wisconsin. Daniels led all FBS players in quarterback rating with a 95.7, yards per attempt with 11.7, which is an FBS record, and passing touchdowns with 40, as well as completions of 20 yards or more with 70. His 72.2 completion percentage was 7th in the nation, while his total offensive yards per game were first, 74 yards better than the next player. As a runner, Daniels was topped by only 25 running backs in yards per game, and his 8.4 rushing yards per attempt was good enough for 4th in the FBS among all running backs. For the Heisman Trophy, Daniels beat out 2 quarterbacks, Washington's Michael Penix Jr. and Oregon's Bo Nix, as well as Ohio State wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. I mentioned last week that LAFC was entering the past weekend attempting to make history, going for their 2nd consecutive MLS Cup. Unfortunately, they fell short to the Columbus Crew 2-1 on a rainy night in Ohio this past weekend. Just a few years ago, the Crew were on the brink of extinction, but thanks to the city of Columbus, they found new ownership, a new stadium, and now their 3rd MLS Cup trophy in team history. LAFC now has several key players with expiring contracts, so they will most likely spend the winter rebuilding the roster and planning for their redemption next season. In the golf world, one major life-altering event is taking place this weekend. The PGA Tour Q School, presented by Korn Ferry's final stage, is back, and golfers are competing to earn their card and their spot to golf at the highest level, the PGA Tour. The golfers will compete across 72 holes at TPC Sawgrass Dyes Valley Course and Sawgrass Country Club this Thursday through Sunday. Each player will play 2 rounds at each course, and there is no cuts. The top 5 in ties after 72 holes will earn 2024 PGA Tour membership, with the next 40 in ties earning guaranteed starts on the Korn Ferry Tour. According to the PGA, this event will be, quote, an eclectic mix of rising stars and wily veterans. Between golf, the NFL season, a few college bowl games, soccer, and more, there are more than enough sports to indulge this weekend. Be sure to check out as much as you possibly can, and be sure to come right back here next Friday for more news and updates. As always, thank you for joining me on this episode of Sports Corner. I'm Cole Young. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next time.